What is up, NFL fans? The Battling Barber Brothers are back. Welcome to Betting with the Barbers, powered by Superbook Sports. I'm Ron Kruk, joined, of course, by former New York Giant Tiki Barber and former Tampa Bay Buck Rondé Barber. Guys, what is up? Can you believe we are approaching week number 7 in the NFL already? What happened?
Yeah, that's what always happens. At some point, you realize the season's like almost halfway over. You're like, wait, we just started this thing. But teams are starting to identify who they are and who they're not. Like my team, the New York Giants, who have gotten blown out successive weeks. It's kind of getting depressing up here in New Jersey.
We are officially at the third, right? At the 1/3 through the season, 18 weeks season through 6 games. And I think we can all say comfortably that the Detroit Lions are the worst team in football. We understand why Sean McVay jettisoned Jared Goff. The matchup this week will prove that if he even plays. But yeah, this is the part of the season. I count on my count. I did this right before I got on air today. I think there's 21 teams that are capable of making playoffs right now. 12 in the AFC, the entire West and North in the AFC, right? 9 in the NFC. The South and the North have 3 teams each that are right there. So football's getting good, man.
It's wide open for sure. And I got to join you, Tiki, with my Broncos. We're pretty depressed here in Denver as well. It's getting ugly. That 3-0 start is a distant memory.
If I could make one more point, since this is a betting show.
Yeah, please.
Sneaky cover by the Eagles last week against the Bucks.
Oh man,
what a bad beat!
What?
A 2-point conversion with as time's running out, they get it and they cover that. That was I think the bad beat of the year, guys.
You know what's even worse? The Bucks go down on the next drive trying to kill the clock, and they get it to like, I don't know, they convert a 3rd and 12 or something to AB, and they get it to like the 15-yard line, and I'm yelling at the screen, "Hey, PA, kick that field goal!"
Exactly. Hey, and full disclosure, we all loved that Tom Brady over 2.5 touchdown passes in that game, and he throws 2 in the first quarter, sitting pretty, right?
Yep.
Man. That was a tough one. But you know what? That's why we move on to week number 7. Before we do move on, just a couple of quick notes. Favorites last week, guys, up again, covering in 8 games, while underdogs came through in 6. The underdogs now are 51-43 against the spread this season, but that gap has closed dramatically after the dogs held nearly a 2-1 edge 3 weeks ago. As we come into week number 7, many in the fantasy football world are referring to this as Bipocalypse week. That is because we have 6 teams that are off. The Bills, the Vikings, the Jags, Cowboys, Chargers, and Steelers all have the week off. So got to do some juggling with your lineups. And so we only have 13 games going down. Before we get to our first game, just some massive lines, guys. Quickly, your take on this. The Rams, 15.5-point favorites over the Lions. Bucks, 12.5 over the Bears, and then a spread that looks like Ohio State versus Illinois. The undefeated Cardinals, 18.5-point favorites over the Houston Texans. These are some massive lines.
Well, I mean, I think we've seen some of these teams that are just clicking on all cylinders on offense. We've been talking about the Cardinals every week. Like, how do you stop them? They have this wide open offense. They have 2 good runners that are getting things done. Kyler Murray's got to be somewhere in the top of the MVP conversation, and they got an embarrassment of riches at the wide receiver position. Oh, and by the way, they're playing good defense as well. So, like, what do you do against the Arizona Cardinals, especially if you're a bad team? You get blown out, which is what happened the last couple of weeks.
And if you're looking at the other, like the Bucks, Chicago, that game's at home, so I think that it's for the Bucks. I think that moves that line a little bit closer. But Chicago's played well. You know, they got the number one sacks, most sacks in the NFL this year, and they're a top 10 defense. So that line being 12, I'm not sure that's one that I would jump on.
Yeah.
But to the point we were making when we first started this show, teams are starting to show who they really are. So that
Good
Detroit line, that I think I say this every week about the bad teams in the league. That could be as high as you want it to be. I think LA might score 100 in that game. It's going to be that type of week. Detroit doesn't know how to win, and Jared Goff doesn't know how to translate what is not actually a bad season to getting a W in the appropriate column. So you get it. Bettors are betting. It's that time of year.
I'm sure producer Mike Grigg is going to find out the odds on the Rams scoring 100 points before this show is over. All right, let's move on to game number 1, guys. The one we chose is the Philadelphia Eagles are traveling to Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. Eagles 2-4, Raiders 4-2. I mean, if any team would thrive off of turmoil and chaos, it would be the Raiders, who put the drama of their head coach, John Gruden, behind them, go into Denver, run up and down the field on the Broncos, embarrass their division rivals, and get an easy 34-24 victory, winning outright as an underdog. Meanwhile, the Eagles went down at home to the Bucs 28-22, but as we discussed, covering with that 2-point conversion at the end of the game. We come into week number 7, and the Raiders opened as a -3-point favorite. That line has held. They are still at -3. The over-under opened at 48, but it currently sits at 49 total points. Of course, the odds coming in from superbook.com. Tiki, let's start with you. Break down this matchup.
Yeah, I absolutely love the Raiders laying 3 here, simply because of how empowered they feel with Rich Bisaccia, who we talked about last week, taking over, Greg Olson as the offensive coordinator, having some freedom to run this offense like he wants to. But really, when I look at this, it's the other side that gives me so much confidence that the Raiders are going to do so well in this game. The Philadelphia Eagles are a team that have just started slow every single week. Now they make games. They see it every week. They came back and actually won one a couple of weeks ago against the Miami Dolphins, but they start every game slow. And I think a lot of that is because Nick Sirianni, their head coach, is trying to do too much. Like a year ago, nobody knew Nick Sirianni's name. I mean, he's been around the league for a while, but nobody knew his name. Now he's the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's insisting on calling plays. And so what we see, like we saw last week, they ran the ball one time in the first half. I mean, it becomes ridiculously unbalanced and puts too much pressure on Jalen Hurts, who's just learning how to be a quarterback in the NFL. Shane Steichen, their offensive coordinator, was the OC with the Los Angeles Chargers last year. He helped develop and grow Justin Herbert into the player that he was last year. Empower him. And until they do, I think the Eagles are going to struggle, especially against a very motivated Raiders team. So for me, laying 3, if you're the Raiders, this is an easy bet.
Well, again, Tiki, I agree with you wholeheartedly. And this one's kind of easy to be on the same side as you with. I was actually shocked when this only came out at 3 at home. Granted, Philly has 2 wins and both of them have been on the road, but to your point, it doesn't matter. First, and before I get started, congrats to Rich Bisaccia. He was my special teams coach.
Yeah, great win.
Where going to Denver, they get 5 sacks. Max Crosby has 3. They get 3 interceptions. The team looked like a team that was motivated to do exactly what they did, which is go on the road and dominate. Now, I look at this matchup, and Philly has a better pass D than Denver did, but they only have 11 sacks on the year. So if you can't pressure Derek Carr, you got no chance of stopping Ruggs, Renfro, and Waller. Like Darius Slay, he's a good corner. Steven Nelson, he's a good corner. They're gonna get run by. Like the only chance is if the Raiders, who don't run the ball very well, if you can get them off the field. Say Carr's having a bad day, because he's had a couple of those. Prior to this game, he had 2 back-to-back games that weren't so well. They don't run the ball, so they can't eat up the clock. That's where Philly can come back into the game. But to Tiki's point, too much pressure on Jalen Hurts. They have a good runner in Miles Sanders. He showed it last week. Get him the ball. Get him some touches. If they don't do that, then I think the Las Vegas Raiders cover this easily.
Yeah, I couldn't go disagree with you guys on this one too. I was a little shocked that the line opened at -3. It stayed steady. I think that the Eagles are coming in rested. They played on Thursday, but the Raider offense has hit on all cylinders. Waller and Ruggs really picking up their game right now. So I like the Raiders in this one as well. Clean sweep across the board. Stay on top of the latest odds and line movements at superbook.com. Download the Superbook app today and, of course, get in on the action. Make sure you're following us on social media as well at Superbook Sports. All right, guys, game number 2. We roll on here with week number 7 in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs, with a 3-3 record, travel down to Tennessee to take on the Titans. 4-2 record for Tennessee. Really, it seemed last week that Kansas City got back to their old ways, guys, with that dominant 31-13 cover over the Washington football team. And the Tennessee Titans, wow, what a win for them, stopping Bills quarterback Josh Allen on as the game was winding down to pull off the upset and win outright as a 5.5-point underdog on Monday Night Football. Superbooksports.com, the odds. Kansas City, guys, opened up as a -4 favorite. They are currently sitting at a -5.5-point favorite. Money coming in on Kansas City. The over-under, that opened up at 56. It now sits at 57 points. Rondé, we'll start with you. Give us your thoughts on the Kansas City-Tennessee matchup.
Yeah, I think this is the game of the week in a game in a week short of really good games. This is probably the best one. And my I didn't see that coming moment from last week was Tennessee beating Buffalo, and I know they made some great stops down the stretch there to do it, but I always thought as Tennessee this year as a team that wasn't quite good enough. Quarterback's not playing well. They're really one-dimensional. That being said, Derrick Henry will expose your lack of courage running through your spine. I mean, he had 143 yards last week. And I know I'm probably stealing some of Tiki's thunder because he's the running back here. But how often
That's what brothers do.
How often do you see a running back rush for 7.2 yards per carry? It's unprecedented when he's doing. He's leading the league by far in rushing yards. Nick Chubb is a distant 200+ yards behind him. And so I say, look, if you can stop Derrick Henry, not easy to do. Your quarterback Ryan Tannehill has been pretty pedestrian this year. Their leading receiver is Julio Jones, who, by the way, is hurt again. I think there's five guys on this team with double-digit catches. None of them are more than 17. By comparison's sake, Tyreek has 46 catches by himself. So do I think it's going to be easy for Kansas City to go on the road, which is a pretty good atmosphere right now in Tennessee, by all accounts, and go in and cover 5.5? I don't think it's easy, but I do think that they can do it. I'm saying that this is a good number. They're going to win by at least 6 points against Tennessee.
Yeah, I got to go completely opposite you on this one, simply because I see what I see. And when I watch Derrick Henry, whether it was a couple of weeks ago where I forgot who they were playing, he had 11 carries for 31 yards in the first half. He finished with 130 and a couple of touchdowns. The dude is just a monster. The Seattle Seahawks in week 3 or whatever it was, they were destroying the Tennessee Titans. How'd they get back in the game? Turned around and handed off to Derrick Henry for 2.5 quarters, and he racked up 130 yards and a couple 3 touchdowns in that game to bring them back on the ground. Who does that? No team does that except for the Tennessee Titans. And Derrick Henry, I know you stole some of the thunder, Rondé. He's led the league in rushing and touchdowns 2 years ago. He led the league in rushing and touchdowns last year. He's going to lead the league in rushing and touchdowns this year. He's already in the Hall of Fame, if you ask me. This dude is a monster. He's a beast, and he's a different type of animal. With that being said, he can be stopped. He can be contained, but I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs can do it. Still one of the worst defenses in football. To me, I like the Tennessee Titans covering this 5.5 at home. The atmosphere is going to be heightened. They're starting to feel good about themselves, and Mike Vrabel has them playing at a high level against it, especially their top opponents. Also, Pat Mahomes' turnover propensity is a little bit troubling to me. He gets away with it. Like he got away with it against Washington. They had 274 yards or something, but only 10 points in the first half because they kept turning the football over. He corrected it, and it was an explosion. But that worries me against a well-coached team like Mike Vrabel's Tennessee Titans are. Give me the Titans plus 5.5.
Superbook.com current odds of this recording. The Chiefs are a 5.5-point favorite, and the over-under is at 56. Guys, quickly, for my take, it's hard to bet against the Chiefs when that offense seems to be rolling, but then you look at that defense, and it is still bad. And when you have a workhorse like Derrick Henry coming in, I think that will be huge. Tiki, you mentioned it too. The KC has a league worst 13 giveaways right now, and it doesn't help when Mahomes is throwing the ball underhand 30 yards down the field. But I don't love this game. I'm going a slight lean. I'm going to take Tennessee plus the points. I do like the over in this one a lot. Great prop bet coming in from superbooksports.com. Derrick Henry rushing yards. The over under is set at 127 and a half.
Yeah, well, if you're going to take the Tennessee Titans with the points are on the money line, you better go over because that's the only way they're doing it.
Well, that bad Chiefs defense, I think they're 135 yards a game on the ground
against average players, and not Derrick Henry.
So yeah, my only other caveat here is that if Kansas City doesn't win this game, right, and I think they're starting to feel a sense of urgency, still sitting 3 weeks in now. We've been talking about this, sitting on the bottom of the AFC West. Right. It's now you start looking yourself in the mirror and like, okay, maybe something isn't right with this team this year. So I that's why I think they're going to win. I think the urgency is right now for this team entering the second third of the season. That just sounds weird.
That's a good point, though. And Tennessee coming off that huge emotional win over Buffalo. Quickly, the odds to win that AFC West, the Chiefs are still major favorites. They're 1-1 to win it, pretty much even. The Vegas comes in. They're 15-2 odds to win the AFC West, and the Chargers are a plus 160. So even though they're at the bottom of the division, the odds makers still have the Chiefs, the favorites, to win that division. All right, guys, let's now talk about your games of the week. Superbook Sports Barber Brothers game of the week. Before you lock in your picks this week, and make sure to keep on top of the latest lines at superbook.com and download the Superbook Sports app. All right, Tiki, game of the week. What you got for us?
I have the Washington football team going out to storied Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. The line has gone down to 8.5. It started over 9. It's down to 8.5 now. So some money's going to the Skins here, or formerly the Skins, the Washington football team. Yep. But to me, this is an easy cover for the Green Bay Packers at 8.5, where it is right now. And obviously we could talk about Aaron and how well he plays, and Devontae Adams and the run game that's been fantastic, and his ability to lift this team, especially after their ugly start where they lost to the Saints, who aren't a very good team this year, but they lost to the Saints. They've ripped off 5 in a row. It hasn't all been pretty, but they find ways to win. To me, this is more about the Washington football team and their regression the last couple of weeks. Quietly, by the way, the Green Bay Packers are a top 5 defense in the National Football League. But the Washington football team, Taylor Heineke, has regressed significantly the last couple of games. Yes. 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and just an inefficiency in operating this offense. They have talent. Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, and J.D. McKissick coming out of the backfield. But their defense is getting gashed, run through over and over and over again. A team that has a plethora of first rounders on that defensive side of the ball. Is ranked 31st in the league right now. I just don't think Washington is in a good state right now. And so give me the Green Bay Packers covering this 8.5 at home in Lambeau. It's probably going to be a little chilly too. It's getting to that kind of time of year.
Well, I think, Tiki, to your point, once you put a quarterback that everybody is begging for in the position to be the guy,
yeah,
you find out if he is the guy.
Right.
Guy.
Yeah.
Right? So we used to have a saying, "Are you hot or is this your game?" Seems like Heineke was just hot. It's not his game. So I agree with you. My only thing with Green Bay is that they're keeping games too close.
I agree.
And I agree that the defense has gotten better. Joe Barry's first-time coordinator there. He's kind of finding his way, and he's actually started finding his way with injuries in the secondary, which means one thing. Only ever means one thing. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Play defenses that don't allow you to get beat the way that they've been getting beat early in the year, and so they've improved. All right, my game of the week, and this is rare for me because it's I got the Ravens two weeks in a row as my game of the week.
Wow.
Second week in a row, and it's Bengals at Ravens, and I know that I'm a Cincy homer. I've been doing it all year, but I just
been riding them, and it's paid off, Rhonda.
I can't get off of this football team because look, Cincy is 4-2. They've lost 2 games by a combined 6 points. So when I looked at this spread, it's 6.5. I definitely know that Joe Burrow and company will provide a better challenge than Justin Herbert and the Chargers did last week. I mean, I know the Ravens played great. 208 total yards allowed, only 14 first downs. That is not going to happen against the Cincinnati Bengals. Jamar Chase is 4th in the NFL in yards. He has 5 touchdowns. Joe Burrow is completing 70% of his passes. Tyler Boyd is actually a pretty good number 2 receiver right now. So they have options to keep it close. And if they're able to get a run game going with Joe Mixon, I'm saying that there's no way they won't be closer than 6.5 points. Actually may have a chance to win. It's a division game, right? It's a rivalry game early in the year that actually means something. And I think this Bengals team is prime. They're still prime because Baltimore hasn't played great. You know, they beat the crap out of the Chargers last week.
Yeah, that was big.
Lamar did Lamar type things last week.
Yeah.
Lamar only had 180 yards, and they controlled the time possession, and they took advantage of Staley's propensity to take dumb risk. Eventually that was going to come back and get the Chargers, and it got the Chargers last week. The Bengals won't do that this week.
Great stuff, guys. Wrapping up your games of the week. Ron is a 12-1 favorite to win the MVP. And I loved it this week. Tom Brady congratulated Rodgers on his new ownership with the Chicago Bears. That was very kind of him. And yeah, Rondé, I mean, huge matchup in the AFC North. And we could end week 7 with the Bengals in a tie for first place. The Bengals.
That's
Can
crazy.
you believe that?
Yeah, everybody thought they were bottom dwelling this year because Joe Burrow tore his ACL. He's not going to be ready.
Yep. And that
played terrible in the preseason. Played awful.
Probably on purpose, to be honest with you, now that I think about it.
Got to give props to Cincinnati, how they've turned things around there for sure. All right, it's now time for a new segment. We are going back to the futures. Yes, let's join Doc Brown and Marty McFly as we check out 3 different futures wagers from superbook.com. Guys, if we only had that Gray's Sports Almanac that Biff had in Back to the Future 2, our picks would be on fire.
Yeah, I wouldn't be keeping it in my back pocket, rolled up and like for somebody to steal.
Smart. Or a costly error, Biff. 100%. All right, a look at 3 futures bets currently available on superbook.com to wager on. Guys, number 1, let's check out some Super Bowl current odds, putting the spotlight on the Green Bay Packers, who their odds are currently 12-1 to win the Super Bowl. Tiki, we'll start with you. Your thoughts?
Yeah, 12-1. I mean, I guess I can look at that and say it's okay. The one thing about this Green Bay Packers team, and we see it with LaFleur now as their head coach and the relationship that he's developed, which felt a little testy early on with Aaron Rodgers, is now blossomed despite the turmoil of this past offseason. They are clicking on all cylinders right now and winning games, whether it's ugly or beautifully. They're winning, and that's and I think more importantly, their pedigree. Right, once a team has had a veteran presence that's gone deep into the postseason, each of the last couple of years they've been in the NFC Championship game. Unfortunately, they haven't pushed through, but we know that means something because you know what it takes to get to that point. 12-1, I would take those odds easily for the Green Bay Packers, despite them not being, one of the top favorites to win the Super Bowl. I would take that in a heartbeat.
I mean, if you're betting, yeah, take it. But I'll say this about Green Bay. Been to the past 2 NFC Championship games, haven't been. How many Super Bowls has Aaron Rodgers played in?
Wow. Yeah, just one.
Just one, right?
Yeah,
he's been to the most NFC Championship games for maybe Donovan's up there too, but that haven't progressed.
I think they're tied, right?
They may be tied, right? Whatever it is. So are you saying that, they got to get through the NFC first? That would be my hesitation on a 12-1 bet for Green Bay, because there's too many good teams in the NFC, starting with the defending Super Bowl champions, and the Dallas Cowboys, who might be the best team in football. They have
Yeah, they're turning the ball over a lot. It's a little bit of smoke and mirror. I'm just telling you, it's a little bit of smoke and mirror.
A lot. I mean, they tend to balance out.
True. They take them away too.
We won a Super Bowl in Tampa, not last year, but when I was playing, by taking the ball away. We had 9 touchdowns that year on defense. That was what propelled us to the Super Bowl. And I think Dallas is kind of doing the same thing. But anyways, back to the point. Green Bay 12-1. Take it if you want. I don't know if I'm jumping on that though right now. They've still got to prove it.
The current odds coming in from superbook.com, the defending champs, the Bucks are 5-1 to win the Super Bowl. Bills 6-1, Chiefs 7-1, and then coming in at 8-1, Cards, Cowboys, and Rams. And if you want to take a flyer on the Detroit Lions, you're getting 5,000 to 1, guys.
Nice.
What was the Rams again?
8-1 odds.
Yeah. All right.
Interesting. Maybe we'll talk about them next week. Let's move on to our Back to the Futures bet number 2, turning the spotlight on the NFL MVP. Kyler Murray is the favorite to win with 7-2 odds, but we're talking about Dallas quarterback Dak Prescott, guys, who currently has 5-1 odds to win the MVP award. Your thoughts?
I think I made this clear last week that Tom Brady's going to be an MVP. He's leading the league in passing still. He's second in touchdowns. He completed 80. Tiki was talking about Lamar completing 87% last week. Tom Brady completed 81% last week. Now, is Dak at 5-1 a good bet? I'd say no. Because I don't think he's going to get there. I watch that and I see marked improvement almost every week. He throws some balls, Teak, and you can agree with this because you watch the games where you're like on the run, pinpoint accuracy, and you're like, that is why were we ever considering this guy not being a top tier quarterback?
That's right. Why did the Cowboys wait so long and cost themselves an extra $50 million?
I don't know. You know what? Because they wanted to set the market for the rest of the quarterbacks and bury everybody else's cap. But that's another argument.
That's a little insider stuff.
5-1 odds. I wouldn't take it because I just don't think he's. I
5-1. I hate for one reason, Ron. One reason. I don't trust Dak Prescott staying healthy. He's hurt again. We hurt his shoulder in the preseason. He played through it and he's fine. Apparently he's fine. I don't know what it actually feels like on Monday mornings after a Sunday game. Now he throws that overtime touchdown, which was on the money. Same thing on the run. CeeDee Lamb, beautiful. He lands awkwardly. His limp into the locker room was ugly. That wasn't I got a little strain here. He was really limping. So I just don't trust him staying healthy. 5-1. I don't love that at all.
The other 5-1 favorite to win the MVP award, Josh Allen, still at 5-1.
I would take that one.
Tom Brady 7-1 and Aaron Rodgers 12-1.
Ron.
It's not
Ron 12-1. I kind of like that one too. All right, guys. Number 3 in our Back to the Futures wager. we're going to get a little crazy, and the NBA tipped off this week. So we're going to go to the hardwood for this last future bet. And let's take a look at the Brooklyn Nets, guys. They are the favorites to win the NBA championship.
Even after they got dog rolled by the Milwaukee Bucks last night. By
correct. Wow. They are still the favorites to win 5-2 odds. Your thoughts?
I don't know, man. If Kyrie somehow gets available for this team, which doesn't seem likely, he's set in his ways. He's not going to get vaccinated. New York City is not going to lift its indoor vaccine mandate for large gatherings. And so I don't see him playing. They've already rescinded, the Nets have, Josiah have already rescinded his extension, which was a big money extension. This is going to sour, I think, really quickly, especially because we've now seen Kevin Durant, KD, the guy who went there because of Kyrie, basically say he's got to do what he's got to do. I can't change his mind. It's I don't want to say it's fracturing, but it's just not the same like kumbaya story that it felt like it was going to become last year. Now, last year, we all know what happened. They all battled injuries. I think collectively in the playoffs, they played 11 games together. KD, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. Who knows if they play any together this year? I don't love this bet at all, simply because I don't think they're going to get right in enough time to be a viable candidate in the East. And by the way, Giannis, he's winning the MVP this year. He's already improved his jumper. I mean, the dude he's assisting now, right? He gets into the lane and kicks it over to Grayson Allen, who drills a 3-pointer. I mean, who the hell is this guy? What can't he do? So, I don't like that about the Nets.
Rondé?
I don't know anything about professional basketball. I just don't watch it. But I know one thing. If it doesn't involve the Milwaukee Bucks, it's not happening.
Whatever, I love it.
Whatever good insight. I'll take them.
And the current odds, we just mentioned it. It's Brooklyn 5-2 odds. The Lakers come in at 4-1 to win the NBA championship.
The Golden State Warriors, who don't have Klay Thompson, beat them. Come on.
Warriors 7-1. I'm getting there. And the defending champs, the Bucks 7-1. Utah 14-1, and the Nuggets out here in Colorado 25-1.
How many games were there yesterday? Just two.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Two.
Hey, what about the 76ers? They got a shot?
Wow. No. That's a tough one. We'll have to look at odds on that one. I love it. The Barber brothers breaking down the NBA. I mean, you guys do it all.
Are you a Nuggets homer like you're a Broncos homer too?
I'm not a big NBA guy either. But watching Joker, the reigning MVP, is pretty exciting. But he's not winning back to back. That's for sure.
No doubt.
Got to look at odds on that.
He can't do it by himself either, by the way.
Yeah, well put. All right. Hey, Superbook Sports is giving you a chance to hang out with the Barber brothers on Super Bowl weekend in Las Vegas. All you have to do is send us in a question for the guys via Twitter. The handle is at Superbook Sports, at Rondé Barber, at Tiki Barber, and at R Cruck. And you're in. It's just that simple. We've got some fantastic questions the last few weeks, and we continue with that trend this week. Guys, the question comes in via Twitter from Lisbeth at Swiss Skydiver 5. Interesting. That's a story in itself, but it goes
something
out
I will
Ron.
never do. I will never ever do.
What's that?
Skydive.
Yeah.
Never.
Perfectly good plane. No.
Yep. I had a chance once, guys. I opted against it. And my dad was really upset at me for not doing it. But, can't win. All right. This one goes out from Lisbeth to Rondé for this one. It says, she says, Rondé, you would be a good coach. Have you ever thought about getting into coaching and coaching DBs?
No, for only one reason. It's an age-old adage that I use to make fun of my really good coach friends now still. Those that can do, those that can't coach.
Wow. Tiki, I'll throw it out to you. You ever think about going down the coaching path?
I have no patience for coaching at all. At all. I love kids. I love seeing them develop. But if I teach you something once and you don't get it, then I got no use for you.
Yeah.
I do like acting like a coach and like pretending that I know everything. Like I do spend some time with the young DBs here in Tampa every now and then,
Yeah.
and they'll pick my brain and I'll give them my ideas because I watch a lot of film. I can see deficiencies in technique and understanding route concepts and all that stuff. So Raheem Morris, my boy, he always asks me, when you coming to coach with me? I'm like, as soon as they start paying assistant coaches a lot more money than they pay right now.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. I don't have patience for these kids anymore.
Yeah.
So basically, you want to be like a grandparent. Here, I'll watch you, but you got to go back home.
Yes,
There you go. I don't blame you guys. I'm coaching my 5th graders flag football team.
Oh, fun!
I'm already way too great from doing that. Unbelievable. Good stuff, guys, as always. We appreciate it. Make sure you can send us a question anytime during the week for the Barber Brothers. Just hit us up at Superbook Sports. Before we kick off a Thursday night, guys, we just got word that Baker Mayfield is out. Former Bronco quarterback Case Keenum will lead the Browns against his former team. An injury report that is as long as War and Peace for the Cleveland Browns. But as we look ahead, any final thoughts before we kick off week number 7?
I actually like Case Keenum. I think he is the perfect backup for whatever team, but in this case, the Cleveland Browns. The problem is, you're right. Kareem Hunt is banged up as well. I think, was he put on IR? I don't know if he put on, but they just have it's a mash unit over there in Cleveland, and it's a shame, not a shame, but it's just disappointing because after what they achieved last year, winning a game in the postseason, the expectations were sky high, rocket high. And they're just not going to meet them. And it's because of the atrocious nature of the sport that me and Rondé used to play, and now these guys are still playing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've been a fan of Baker. I want him to play well, but if he's one of those guys who wasn't performing up to snuff anyways, and now he's hurt, it's going to be a complete run game show for Cleveland. That's all they can do. They got to find a way to play defense on Thursday or not. But coming into week 7, right?
Yep.
7. It's look, there's some interesting matchups. How bad are the Lions going to lose? The Jets Patriots game. Is anybody watching that one?
Wow.
It's not a great week. We've been talking about all year. Great football coming. Great football coming. I think I'm going to look at college football this week.
Yeah, it's a great point. I tend to agree. Guys, but hey, we've been spoiled so far, so we'll give the NFL a pass on this one. Great insight as always. Enjoy the games this weekend, fellas.
Cheers, Ronnie.
Be good, Ron.
Well, make sure to sign up at superbook.com. Download the Superbook app for the latest odds and follow Superbook on social media at Superbook Sports. And you can always check out the show on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, and the podcast version on Apple and Spotify as well. For Rondé and Tiki Barber, I'm Ron Kruk. We'll see you next week again for Betting with the Barbers.